All right, guys, 2 questions for you. Very sincere. If you have an answer, leave it for me. 2 things happened at the post-fight press conference. I saw them both, but understand it from my perspective. I watched the post-fight press conference via ESPN MMA's Twitter page. Now, Twitter is roughly, it's like 11 seconds. So my point to you is I missed 2 things. If these were elaborated on, you got to tell me what the answer was. First off, Dana had said, we're going to hire a security guard to man the scale moving forward. Okay, great. Tell me more. Tell me what that was about. There was no part of the Ferguson weight debacle that had any even rumor or speculation to a tampered scale. Nobody said that the official scale was tampered with. Now, it is very interesting. I know that you think we're splitting hairs here, but we're not. It's meaningful. If the UFC were to hire somebody to watch the scale, that now means that the UFC is in charge of the scale. That is the potential. And I could lay out 5 different scenarios for you, of which somewhere over time, even if it's 100 years from now, will play out. That would open up a massive potential. Whoever is in charge of the weigh-in is who needs to be in charge of the scale, even if it means hiring security for it, which is the commission, period. Got to be that way. For a number of different reasons, it's got to be that way. Now, guys, I wasn't in Arizona. I didn't see this firsthand, so I don't come to you with a level of evidence. My belief is, based on experiences that I had in the past, nobody gets to touch the official scale. And the official scale will even sit out in the open, right? I mean, don't forget a show is going on. You're going to bring the people in at some point. You're going to have security guards, and you're going to have music, and you're going to have lights, and you're going to have Joe Rogan or Jon Jones, right? I mean, it's a show. It's a production. That scale will sit there, and it's untouched. And everybody who's weighing in would like to go get on that scale. They would just like an assurance. And to have a scale that's a half a pound off or a quarter pound off or tenths off or a number of grams or kilograms, any way that you want to do the metric system is very common. From the check scale won't say what your personal scale said. By the way, you happened down into the health club and they happen to have the scale. I've been on 3 scales and I got 3 different answers, which to the colloquial to you guys, so what? I got a really good idea of what I weigh. In this sport, right, there's only a couple of walks of life where you get weighed in before you're allowed to go do your job. Can you imagine how incredibly uncommon this is? But you also understand why it's extremely important. Like, there was people that gave Charles Oliveira a hard time and said, well, he had an hour and he couldn't lose half a pound. Guys, this was never about Charles Oliveira losing a half a pound. You're wording it wrong. This was about Charles Oliveira losing another half a pound. So I just want the context. I just want the context of that statement. Am I wrong with my premise? Is there a story going around that I don't know about that the official scale was tampered with? I have literally never heard that in any fashion. And the commissions do literally put somebody there after the scale is set up and calibrated on the spot to stop anybody from coming near it. Nobody gets to check. Nobody gets to test it. And I've even told hard luck stories to the guy. Oh, man, hey, I got to know what I weigh. You're completely dehydrated. It's one of the most uncomfortable things that you'll ever have in life. And you can't just happen upon dehydration. You have to want and be disciplined to be dehydrated. It's an incredibly damning experience, which that gram does matter. You will either go in the back and you will take an ice cube and put it in your mouth that will soothe you in your absolute worst moment for 5 minutes, or you will not. Because it's a really hard thing to relate to. I don't know that I have the rhetorical skills to get anybody to understand the discomforts and the mental games that happen to a person while being severely dehydrated. So at any rate, I do make a fair point. There is a very fine line. Whoever's going to man that scale has now taken responsibility for the scale. And I think you want to be real careful making sure that's you. So if there was some context, share it with me. Another thing. Most interesting thing Dana said. But again, I get to see it for 11 seconds. They were talking about Islam versus Benny. And someone asked Dana straight up, are you still making that fight? Dana's response straight up was, I planned to, but Joe Rogan just grabbed me and told me not to. It cut out. I didn't get anything else. So that's my second question. I have to imagine whoever asked the question followed up. I don't have the answer. Why did Joe Rogan Why did Joe Rogan say that? Was that brought forward? Has anybody asked Joe about this? Do you guys have an answer? If we don't, do we just have to guess? Who do you think? Who do you think Joe is speaking up on behalf of? Is Joe saying don't put those guys against each other because one guy is hurt? Maybe. Is Joe saying don't put those guys together because we need one of those guys to go and do and then fill in the blank? Don't have these two studs. Like, by the way, that is the most competitive and hardest match currently booked at 155 pounds. If you were just going to throw a belt in there because you got a vacated belt, people on the inside, us, not the outsiders, but the insiders would go, well, that's the match. Of course, that's the match. You don't even have the ability within the rankings to get a bout sheet and bring two guys together that could be more competitive on paper than that one with two higher ranked guys or two guys on more of a roll. Like, it's one of those things. So unless somebody is injured and Joe has inside information and he's saying, hey, don't put this guy forward, it would lean you to, let's use one of those guys and let's use it for a title opportunity, which would be really interesting. Islam for sure versus Charles Oliveira is a fantastically interesting match. And the same thing goes with Benny. But as much as you need championship matches, and as much as you get bit by the seduction of a title fight, you have to have number one contenders matches too. You have to have ranking matches too. They are of different significance, but they are all of equal importance in and of themselves. I want to see Dariush versus Benny. I will fully acknowledge the winner, number one contender, at least within my mind. But Joe Rogan made the comment to Dana. What was the comment predicated on?